going into this past weekend, I reminded myself that I wanted to have higher value items for sale so that I can have better sales over the weekend. Quite honestly, if you don't have higher value stuff listed, you can't sell it. I think everybody knows that, but for me, it's good to remind myself of that. A few weeks back, I had a great weekend where I sold quite a few higher value items. And then I had a weekend after where I didn't list higher value items. I didn't buy as many. And so it just wasn't as good sales wise. So going into this past weekend, I made sure and took lots of pictures and had sourced some higher value items. One of them I had sitting over here that I ended up breaking apart and got some sales off of. But it's just, a reminder, basically, really for myself. But if it helps anybody out there, and another thing we'll see whenever we get into this is don't be scared to invest a little money sometimes. As long as you have, the comps, the backup to show that you're going to sell this item. I've got an item that I sat on for about 2 to 3 weeks, about 2 weeks, I think, that sold at full price, made a nice profit on it, and we'll go over that here in just a little bit. But if it's your first time here, my name's Brian. I'm a reseller. I sell on eBay. I sell in the everything category. So you're going to get a really good view of that today in the assortment that sold over the weekend. I sold 14 items. Due to some of the prices of items that sold, my average selling price was just a tick over $40 per item, which is on the high side for me, but I'm happy to have it. And after fees and everything, my estimated pre-tax profit's about $30 to $32 per item, which is a little higher for me as well, but moving towards my target for sure. So happy to see that. Did have a pretty good weekend. Didn't run any store sales this weekend. I wanted to take another shot to see, if I had good items listed, what could happen. And a lot of them sold. A lot of the items that I had listed this past, like Wednesday through Friday, sold over the weekend. A good number of them. So we'll get into that right now. And we're just going to go in the order that the items sold. And then we'll talk about how much I paid for every item, where I bought it, and if there's any cool. I got one item. I got a really cool story behind it. I think it's cool. We'll see. But yeah, let's talk about it. So the first item I picked up, I had considered keeping this, which is why I bought it originally. I knew it wasn't very valuable, and I showed it to my wife, and she's like, I don't know. I'd rather have a different color if we were going to use one like that. So this is an Anchor Hawking. It's called the Sereno, this color. And I picked it up for $2 at a estate sale and sold it for $10 plus shipping. I've had it on my shelf for about probably 4 months. I think I had it at like $14.89 or $12.89. Somebody sent me an offer for $10 and I took it. So glad to see that one go out the door. I kept worrying that I was going to like bump it and break it because it's such a big piece. But yeah, everything turned out okay. This next one I sold last week. I had 2 sets of Royal Prestige cookware. The set I sold last week was made by Echo, which also makes flatware and stainless steel kitchen stuff. And then this set is made by West Bend, which has their own cookware, and then they private labeled cookware for a ton of people back in the 70s and 80s. So I had this set. It's 4-piece, so it's 3 pans or skillets and then 1 lid. This lid has the steam spout is broken, which I called out in the description. I made sure and point that out. It's got the bottom piece on it, so but I mean the skillet still functions just fine. I actually bought interesting story. I found the skillet. It was $7.89 at Goodwill, and it was missing the handle. It was missing this handle right here. It had the screw, but no handle. And you might remember if you saw last week's video about me selling the cookware with the broken piece, there was a steamer insert and it had a missing handle. That's the missing handle right there. I was like, man, I wish this skillet had a handle. And then just randomly, I found the steamer insert. It wasn't with the other Royal Prestige stuff. And I was like, this is the same thing. And that steamer insert was only $2.89. You can't buy a replacement handle for less than about 15 or 20 bucks on eBay. So I was like, okay, I'm going to buy this. Maybe the steamer insert will fit something else, which it ended up fitting something else that I already had. I took the handle off, I put it on the skillet to make this set, and then I sold the other one because it also had some missing pieces with that steamer insert missing the handle. And it just weird the way it all worked out within a few days of each other. I found some of it at an estate sale, some of it at Goodwill, and ended up making two complete sets of, or not complete sets, but two separate sets of cookware. One that was made by Echo, one that was made by West Bend, and this one sold. So that other one sold on Thursday. This one sold Friday. I picked up the set. So this set I picked up for $18 combined, all in, and I sold it for $79.89 plus shipping. It was a pretty good one. I was really glad to see that one come through. I've only had it listed for less than a week. So, yeah. Cookware seems to be doing pretty well. I don't know if that has anything to do with people. Maybe it's just people like buying lots of cookware sets instead of eaches. But yeah, it seems to be doing pretty good. The next item that sold, item number 3, I did list this on, I think, Thursday, maybe Friday. This is an Electrolux canister vacuum power hose. I tested all this. So I picked up an entire Electrolux vacuum at a little community thrift store not too far from me. And they had the vacuum sitting there, and I looked at it, and I said, hey, how much do you want on the vacuum? And she goes, well, we want $50 for it. And $50 isn't a bad price for a full canister vacuum in Electrolux. It was pretty dirty. The vacuum bag, I didn't know this at the time. The vacuum bag was completely full. It was packed full. But the vacuum itself was all scuffed up. It was really dirty. And so she said $50, and I'm looking at it, and she goes, how about $25? I guess they wanted it gone. They didn't want it there. I said, well, let me test it. I tested it, and all the pieces and parts worked just fine. So I paid them the $25, and what I do with Electrolux canister vacuums is I take them apart. You can generally get about 30% more to 50% more for the whole vacuum if you take it apart and sell it individual pieces. And I sell it in 4 different pieces. So if you sell it with, generally, sometimes it comes with a bunch. Some people have a bunch of extra attachments, and sometimes I'll do those in a lot by themselves. So it'll be like 5 things. But generally it's 4 separate things. So I sell the canister by itself. I'll sell that hose by itself. I'll sell the power nozzle, the big head by itself. And then the 2-piece wand I'll sell by itself. Because generally people only are searching for a replacement piece typically. They do buy full sets. I've sold full sets before. But a lot of people, their power nozzle goes out and they want another one. And you can't go necessarily buy. We can buy brand new old ones on eBay, but they're really expensive, and you can get a used one that works just fine, for relatively inexpensive. So yeah, that's what I do with those. So I broke the whole thing apart. That was a really good buy. So I assigned $8.50 in cost to the hose, and I sold it for $74.89 plus shipping. Sold it in about a day, 2 days, something like that. So that was a really good one. $74.89 plus shipping. Next item is this really cool old tool belt I picked up at an estate sale for $2.50. It was marked $5 and it was half off day. These old leather tool belts, as long as the leather's not falling apart, it's not like dry rotted or something, can do pretty well. I say pretty well. They're not super high end. If you can get it in really, really good shape, you can sell it for more. But this one I picked up for $2.50, and I sold it for $14.89 plus shipping, and I sold it in about 2.5-3 weeks. That one sold pretty fast. The next item, this was an odd one. I didn't know what to think of it when I first saw it. I picked this up at a garage sale at a storage unit. There's a handful of items I picked up there. One of them I sold for really good money already, but this is a jeweler's sandbag. It has double-stitched leather. This is a vintage piece. It's got double-stitched leather. It's all, glued and sealed around the perimeter. It's a 7-inch jeweler's sandbag. They'll use it to work on items with, but it's really, really heavy duty. It's a nice piece. It's in great shape. I paid $3 for this, and I sold it for $29.89 plus shipping. So a brand new one might cost you $50 or $60, but this vintage one sold for $29.89 plus shipping on a $3 buy cost. It was really good. That was an interesting garage sale because it was at a storage facility not far from where I'm at now, and tenants could just go in, open their garage doors, the storage unit doors, and sell right out of their storage unit. And it was about 40 degrees. It was raining, and it was about 30-mile-an-hour winds outside. It was insane, and there was only about 15 people that had their units open. But there was a lot of people out shopping despite the weather conditions. I was pretty shocked. I thought I'd be the only wacko that showed up for that, but there was quite a few people that showed up for it. It was overall, it was a pretty good time. All right, the next two items are both Electrolux vacuum items as well. So this is from a different vacuum, but this is a power nozzle. And originally it had, this piece has been replaced. Usually it would have had a piece that matched the color here with the gray. But this power nozzle, and it's got a little headlight on it that turns on whenever it's running. I've got a cost of $10 in that, and I sold this one for $49.89 plus shipping. So again, pretty good profit on that. If you ever see those Electrolux canister vacuums, I'll show you the canister here in a second. I'd take a hard look at them. If you're not too scared of shipping big items, and they're not like, you don't want to like throw it off a building, but they're not super fragile. So I just wrap them up in a big box, give them plenty of space, and ship them off. And I've never had one where I've broken. I had one person send one back and said the motor didn't work. There was no suction. And I actually, whenever I got this hose, because I still had it as a return, it's right up here. I was like, well, now I can finally test this thing because I didn't have a hose to test it with anymore. I'd sold the hose that went with the canister. It has perfect suction. The thing works amazing. And I think he just didn't want it. And I ended up paying the shipping to bring it back. Unfortunately, it's been like 5 months ago. So I don't think I have any recourse at this point. But yeah. So, long story, $10 into $50 on that power nozzle. And then here's the other one. So this is the canister that was with that hose. And it's cool. It has the full set of extra attachments that goes with it. Right up there, little fine attachments. But this thing was super dirty and all scuffed. Lots and lots of scuffs, which is common for these to have lots of scuffs because they get drug around and people move them around with their feet. And so you get black shoe marks and just all sorts of stuff on them. And I just use a magic eraser, just dip it in a little bit of water. Or actually I spray it with a water vinegar mixture, and that takes those scuffs right off, and it cleans those things up really, really well. And yeah, so that one went out the door. I did send down an offer out for that one. I think I had it at $94 or $99.89. I sent an offer. So I had $8.50 in that, the canister, and I sent an offer, and they took it for $82.70 plus shipping. Yeah, those I've sold those for anywhere from $80 to $100 depending on the model. But yeah, I was glad to see that one go. Went really fast. Now back to some cookware. Got a 2-piece set of Resereware. This is post 1968, but it is vintage. Got it polished up real nice. The bottoms look real good. But normally I would have sold these individually. It's 1.5 quart and a 2 quart saucepan. Normally I would have sold them individually, but as I've been selling more things in lots or bundles, I was like, you know what, I'm going to try to sell these two together. And instead of selling them for, $15 to $17, $18 per saucepan, I just put the bundle out there. So I've got $8 into the bundle, and I sold it for $32.21 plus shipping. So it's nice to sell, instead of 4 into 16, and now I'm 8 into 32, and I'd rather have that $32 sale price. Next item, it's not a high ticket item. These don't tend to sell for lots of money, but it's a Cuisinart. This is a DLC 8. I think DLC 8, right? Nope, I'm sorry, wrong. DLC 10E motor base for a food processor that I picked up at Salvation Army. So I've got $2 into the base is how I broke out the pricing, and I sold it for $11 plus shipping on an offer. Somebody sent me an offer on that. Those don't typically sell as well as like the pitchers and the little tops with the push chute and that kind of stuff. Those sell quite a bit slower, so I'm glad anytime I can get those out of the store. A little bit of clothing. Had 2 clothing sales in a row, actually. So I sent an offer, and somebody sent me a counter offer for these Bonobos golf pants. I picked these up at Goodwill for $7.93 and sold them for $23 on the offer plus shipping. So a little more than double my money, or I guess, yeah, I'll be real close to doubling my money on that one. Bonobos is a nice brand. Used to be better, but it's not a great resale brand. The value just isn't there because it is so flooded. But they have quality clothing. It's just the value's not really there for resale. Not something I'd probably pick up again, but I did sell that one, that pair. The next item, so I picked these up at Goodwill. I did a short video on these a while back. So there was 2 pair. These are Ariat, like WM4 rebar, but they're the FR rated fire resistant jeans. They're 2 pair of the same size that I picked up together, and at Goodwill they were, so jeans are $9.69 plus tax, so I think I was into them for like $20.80. So $20.80 for the pair. So $10.40 each, and I sold them full price, $77.89 plus tax. There was a really good sales history on these, the size and everything, but and they were selling anywhere between $35 and $45. So I kind of went down the middle with $77.89, and I thought, somebody's going to want a couple pair, and now instead of paying $35 from 2 different people, they might pay $77, pay just a little bit more, because there was quite a few at $35 each. And then you get to save on shipping, because a lot of people are doing $8 or $9 in shipping, and on these I did $12.99 for the 2, because I can get these shipped for, I'm probably getting them shipped for about $10. So $20.80, buy cost $77.89 plus shipping. So, and not all FR jeans are created equal. There's a brand that does a lot of fire resistant material called Berne, Berne, and I've seen their jeans and their shirts, and they're not worth reselling. The resale value on those is maybe like $10 to $15. It's just, and for what Goodwill charges, if you get it for $1 at a garage sale, maybe you could sell it for $15. But Goodwill's charging $9.69 for pants, and selling them for $15 just doesn't work. So, but Ariat does pretty good on the FR stuff. So look for those on Ariat. It's the red tags. On Wranglers, it's the orange tags. But keep your eyes out for those. This next item, this was hilarious. This sold yesterday. This was so funny to me. So I sold this buck knife. It's a little Bantam Nano. It's a Real True camo. It's brand new. Actually, I picked this up on clearance about 4 years ago. I thought, man, I'm going to start selling a bunch of stuff on Amazon. And so I set up my account. I bought a handful of knives on clearance. And that's when I figured I didn't know enough about Amazon. I was just kind of jumping into it head first, that you had to get ungated on stuff. And I wasn't allowed to sell. I had Gerber knives and buck knives, and I wasn't allowed to sell either one of them. So I had all these knives. I was like, crap. I took most of them back to the store. But I kept a couple, and this is one I kept intending to sell it on eBay, and then we moved and stuff happened, and it ended up in a box, and I came across it a couple weeks ago, and I got it pictured last week, and I bought this at Menards in Batavia, Illinois. I used to live in Geneva, Illinois. Batavia is just the next town over, and I bought this in Batavia, Illinois, and the sale came through, and I scrolled down to the shipping details, and the guy that bought this lives in Batavia, Illinois. And I was like, I went in, I told my wife, I said, you remember that little buck knife that I was going to sell? She goes, yeah. I said, do you remember where I bought that? And she goes, I have no idea where you bought it. I said, I bought it at Menards. And she goes, oh. I said, where was Menards? She goes, in Geneva? I'm like, nope, it was over the city line. She goes, oh, I guess it was in Batavia. And I said, guess where the guy lives that bought it? And she was like, no way. And I'm like, trying to calculate. I have no idea how to calculate the odds of all that stuff happening, buying it in Batavia, moving down to Oklahoma, selling it based in Oklahoma, and the person that buys it, it's going to go all the way back to Batavia. It's just, I'm gonna write a little note and put it in the bag, and just like a shorter version of that story, just say, hey, this knife originally came from Batavia, and it's been in Oklahoma for a few years. But it was probably one of the weirdest, not weirdest, but funniest coincidental sales I've ever had. I paid $5 for it on clearance. Sold it for $22.89 plus shipping. $22.89 plus shipping on that one. All right, some more cookware. This is a new brand to me, and I've actually found it a couple more times since I bought this and had it listed. I haven't bought it since then because this was my first time having it. It doesn't have, there's not as much listed as there is Revereware and other stuff. The sell-through is okay, and I wasn't sure how it was going to sell, so I haven't bought any more. Now that I know it, as long as you have, a few pieces together, it'll sell a little better. I'll probably pick it up if it's the right price. Probably a little better pricing than what I bought it at originally. But yeah, let's take a look at this. This is aluminum, heavy aluminum. This is called Club Cookware. So you can see the emblem on the bottom. It says Club. It says Club on the handles on top as well. But yeah, they're just kind of that heavy aluminum, and not heavy weight because they're aluminum, but it's real thick aluminum. But there's two saucepans, different sizes, and then a skillet with, unfortunately, it didn't have a lid with it, but picked up the 3 pieces at Salvation Army for $13.86. I picked them up on 25 Wednesdays, at least here, are a 25% off day. So got 25% off. Ended up being $13.86 for the 3 pieces, 5 if you count the lids, and I sold it for $39.89 plus shipping. And that one is an international sale. It's going up to Canada. That one's number 13. And then number 14, the 14th sale of the weekend, is this vintage GE alarm clock. Still has the sticker on top comparing this model to other models. This is a 7-4642B. So it was super easy to comp this while I was at Goodwill. It's got a real clean battery compartment. It takes 2 9-volt batteries. everything looks pretty good on it. The junky part was they had the cord was sitting there, and they had tape, the clear packing tape. The Goodwill here uses that, or I don't know if all of them do, but the ones here use this clear packing tape to hold things together, which I don't like the clear packing tape. I wish they'd use like maybe painter's tape. But the clear packing tape took off a few little pieces of the finish right there, which I pointed out in the listing. But everything works fine on it. I did my hero shot picture, my first picture that people see when they're scrolling, is it's plugged in and it's on. So it's got the time set on it. So if you're listing electronics like that you can see that it's on or powered on or working, I would use that as your first picture. Just so, because so many people don't. They just take a picture of the thing sitting there, and then people have to click through and then see, is it working or not? And I think you're more likely to get clicks on your listing if your initial picture shows that it's on and working. And I don't know, it's just something I do. But I picked that one up for $3.20. Somebody did send me an offer for $18. I had it at $24.89, but they sent me an offer at $18. I've had it listed for only about a week, but I was happy to take it. And because they don't sell, there may be about a 50% sell-through rate. So I'm fine with that return and not waiting to get the extra few bucks. So $3.20 into $18 plus shipping. And that's it. That is all 14 items. I probably rambled a little longer than I intended to, so sorry about that. Picked up a lot of great stuff this past weekend at some garage sales and estate sales that I'm going to get listed up over the next few days, and hopefully we'll produce a nice week of sales and a nice upcoming weekend of sales as well. But if you have any comments or questions, leave those down in the comments below. I'll be happy to get back to you. And until next time, have a great day.